Hi, everyone. It's good to be here. Nice to see some familiar faces and many that aren't. So it's good to meet you. Um, my name is Shelli Myers, and I work for the Office of State Tax Commissioner. I was asked to give information on locally and centrally assessed properties, including timelines, because I was told timelines are helpful. So we will go through that. If I can, green button. So we're going to start with centrally assessed. Centrally assessed properties are, we have two ways of assessing them. One is called ad valorem, which is assessed according to their value. And then the other is a payment in lieu of tax. And I'll go through how those are assessed here as we go. I tried to find a picture with as many utility type assessment pieces as I could. So in this one, we've got rail, we've got wind, we've got transmission lines. So I was kind of proud. Okay, centrally assessed properties that are assessed according to their value are pipelines, railroad, wind farms, electric and gas companies, air transportation companies. Again, ad valorem means that we tax the companies according to their value by using like a cost and an income approach to value. For pipeline companies, and they're all done just a little differently, but for pipeline companies, we look at the operative property, both real and personal, and it's valued by taking into consideration the earning power of the property. To see that, we look at stocks and bonds, we look at their franchises, rights and privileges, their income, their earnings, and then we assess the property as a whole. A lot of our pipelines or railroads, they're big. They're outside of state lines. So we assess the company as a whole, and then we kind of narrow it down to just what's in North Dakota, and then that's how we tax them. And that's the same with all of the properties that we're going to be talking about today in the centrally assessed. Let's see here. For railroads, we value all real property in the operation of the railroad, but we remove from the system value all personal property. So personal property would be their locomotives, rail cars, vehicles, workforce, computer software. We don't look at any of that for the railroad. But again, a share of the system value is allocated to North Dakota according to the gross revenues, the revenue traffic units, and the car and locomotive miles. When assessing wind farms, that's very similar to pipelines. We look at all of the operative property, real and personal. A system value is calculated and allocated to North Dakota based on the location of the property. Wind farms are special because they are both ad valorem property and payment in lieu of property tax. So there's two different places in statute that we go to determine how to value. The property in lieu of tax for wind farms is any wind farm that was built after December 31st, 2014, or turned 20 years old. Then it flips from ad valorem into pilots. So the pilot is just more of a flat tax, and we'll talk about that later. But so right now we have a few in each. Next is electric and gas companies. When assessing electric and gas companies, all operative property of the investor-owned utilities, real and personal, is subject to assessment. Like other centrally assessed companies, the system value is calculated and allocated just to North Dakota. And finally, we have air transportation. The air transportation is valued a little bit differently. The total of the net lease payments for real property divided by a cap rate gives us the market value, and that's what we use. The cities with airlines and air transportation companies provide a total taxable value broken down by school districts. Some of you know this way better than I do, even, multiplied by 1 mill rate to determine an average mill rate. And then each airline's taxable value is multiplied by that average yearly mill rate to calculate the tax due. So airline is a little different than the first few centrally assessed types of property that we talked about, because we at our office actually bill and collect payments for the airlines, much like electric tax. And as I said that, I thought, I think we collect the payments, but we do bill them. So yeah, we would collect the payments. But that concludes the centrally assessed ad valorem. Now we're going to talk about the centrally assessed payments in lieu. The numbers I have behind these, and I should have said this at the first centrally assessed one, that's how many companies we have in each category. So now we'll get to distribution, transmission, generation, and generation from wind. These we call electric tax. So the distribution tax is calculated, and these are the flat tax, so the formula's in century code. It's calculated at a rate of 80 cents per megawatt hour for retail sale of electricity delivered to a consumer in the state during the calendar year. The transmission line tax is subject to annual taxes per mile or fraction of a mile based on the nominal operating voltages in the year placed in service. The electric wind generation tax encompasses wind generators, wind farms, and associated collector systems, and they're subject to a tax of $2.50 per kilowatt hour times the rated capacity of the wind generator, and a tax of 1/2 of 1 mil times each kilowatt hour of electricity generated by the wind generator. Electric generation tax uses the generation capacity of 100 kilowatts or more and is based on 50 cents per kilowatt times the rated capacity of generation unit and 1 mil per kilowatt hour of electricity generated by the power unit for the grid connected generators that are not part of the project. So in a 6-week time frame, we in property tax division assess approximately $14 billion of true and full value to the centrally assessed properties. That is on your left, my right. The one on the right, wait, did I even say that right? Yeah, your left, my right. The one on the right is the payments in lieu of tax, and that's about $32 million that we collect every year. The ad valorem companies report by May 31st, or excuse me, by May 1st, and then the electric companies report by June 1st. So the tentative assessments went out on Friday to all of the companies. They have to be sent out by January 15th, which gives 2 weeks for the companies to challenge and appeal their values. So right now my team is making a lot of appointments because everybody wants to challenge their value. Finally, on, let's see, what's the date? State board is on July 8th. So on July 8th, we will take all of the assessments that we have put together, give them to the State Board of Equalization, and then they ask us questions and then either make changes or approve the values that we give to them. So our goal then is to get all of the counties that information as soon as possible. I think last year, well, our goal is to do it within a week of that meeting. I think last year we would kind of beat our record, so we're going to see if we can beat our record this year and get them out. Well, I'll keep it a secret. But here's the timeline, just as a overall. All centrally assessed companies are assessed as of January 1. The companies submit their reports to the Property Tax Division by May 1st, June 1st if they're electric tax. The property tax staff has until June 15th to complete all of the assessments and get them sent out to the companies. And then they have until approximately July 1st to meet and talk about the appeals or the challenges from the companies and figure out how to move forward. And then the State Board of Equalization reviews the recommendations and finalizes those assessments on the second Tuesday of every July. So again, the meeting this year is July 8th, and hopefully we can, again, beat our record and get you the information as soon as possible and faster than last year. So now we're going to talk about locally assessed properties, and I don't know how to make this fun. It's just what it is, right? So let's see. Okay, so assessing is fair and equitable administration of the property tax system. That's the goal. The degree of efficiency and accuracy in determining the market value of the taxable property directly affects the proportion of local government costs based on every property, The degree of efficiency and accuracy in determining the market value of the taxable property directly affects the proportion of local government costs placed on every property owner. Wow, that was hard. To effectively administer property tax, the assessors use 3 approaches to value. The sales comparison approach evaluates the sales market, estimating the value of a property by comparing it to similar properties that have recently sold. The cost approach determines an estimate based on the total of the land value and the depreciated cost of the building and other improvements. And then the income approach calculates the present value by converting all expected future net benefits into a current value. So residential property is a building classified as a residential property is one that is used as a dwelling by an individual or group of individuals that provides a separate family living quarter for less than 4 family units. Garages, barns, and storage buildings located on a parcel with a residence and used in connection with the residential use are classified as residential. House Bill 1176 this session split the residential class of property into 2 categories, primary and non-primary. As far as how this collective class of property is going to be valued, it stays exactly the same. There are no changes to how the residential class will be valued. Buildings not located on the same parcel as a residence and not used in connection with a residence should be classified as commercial property. An apartment building or other buildings with 4 or more family units, retail buildings, shop condos, hotels, vacant lots, and any building that is not exempt as a farm building are classified as commercial property. When assessing commercial property, the assessor uses all 3 approaches to value: the sales comparison, the cost using depreciation, and the income approach when they're all 3 available. Agricultural property means platted or unplatted lands used for raising agricultural crops or grazing farm animals. Ag property includes land on which a greenhouse or other building is located if the land is used for a nursery or other purpose associated with the operation of the greenhouse. In brief, ag land assessments are based on actual use of the land as in crop or non-crop, soil type, soil classification data from soil surveys, and modifiers that have been approved. And the locally assessed timeline is as follows. All property in North Dakota is assessed as of February 1st. All assessments are finalized in March, and in April, township boards can meet anytime. City boards of equalization meet within the first 15 days of April, and county boards of equalization meet within the first 10 days of June. State board meets on the second Tuesday of each August, and that means that this year it's August 12th. At the August meeting, the state board hears any appeals that have come from the local level, and the appeals are given to the Property Tax Division to investigate. On October 2nd this year, the board will meet again and hear all the recommendations for any appeals that have come forward. And as a rule, it's usually the second Thursday, the first Thursday of every year that the board meets for that second meeting. That was a lot of information that we went through, but I think that, or I'm hoping that the timeline helps you in knowing when you're going to get information and what you can expect from us. But thank you for your time. Does anybody have any questions?
Hi, Shelli.
Hi, Erica.
So a question, as the state, this is about centrally assessed properties.
Okay.
So because you are the assessor of centrally assessed properties, and in the world of caps, new growth calculations are extremely important in the cap calculation. Is the state tax commissioner's office also going to be calculating the new growth for the centrally assessed properties?
That is such a good question. I think we're going to have to. Jury's out. No, I think we're going to have to, yeah. But it will, yeah. Good question. Good, Linda.
I just thought I would add, one of the things you suggested of a methodology for counties to determine the new growth in their centrally assessed is on the date of...
Yes, okay, thank you very much. I hear what, okay, my brain is catching up to this question line. So when we send out information from our office to you as a county, we send out big allocation sheets. It has every line that the transmission line goes in. It has information in that line, and to see if it's new growth, there is a year in service column. If you filter that year in service, anything 2024 is listed, anything new would be listed. So when you hit that little filter button, you can see what years, how long the pipe's been in line, or if they've added new pipe or new transmission lines or whatever. But that is consistent throughout all of the different types of property. So, Erica, I'm sorry, can I circle back? Because we don't do the budgets for the counties, it will be up to the counties. Now that my brain is on the track of that question and answer, the counties will have to look for that new growth. So, thank you.
When you say counties will have to look for that new growth, what does that mean? And if there was, second question is, if there was, do you anticipate an increase of growth for the centrally assessed values?
Good questions. The centrally assessed does not grow very quickly. We do have new, well, except for in McKenzie County, sorry. No, yeah. The western part of the state, that's a lie, I guess. But we do have like a new, MDU has a new line of natural gas going to underserved communities. That is also something that we track in those allocation sheets. It is exempt, however, but you know, I guess every year there is construction work in progress going into place here and there, but we don't see huge jumps at this point. In the last few years, it's kind of stabilized. Did I answer both questions?
When you mention counties make that determination, what do you mean by that? They determine what exactly?
Okay, thank you. So in order to determine new growth on the county level, when we send those allocation sheets, you'll go through the years of service, just look through years in service on that allocation sheet. There's that column, and I can see it in my head. I just don't know what letter it is right now. But there's a column on the last page, or on the, nope, it's on the allocation sheet that you get for each. You get a list of just every single company in your jurisdiction. So every single company has a year in service where their pipeline was put into place. So that's where you'll look. If you need more guidance when it comes to that, call my office. All of us can help you with that.
Can you hear me? I thought I would just kind of tie together what I think the message I was hoping that we got from your presentation, and thank you very much. Two takeaways is those timelines, the centrally assessed timeline. If you got that from Shelli's presentation, those values are not ready for you until mid-July, mid to the end of July. I've been getting a lot of those questions. So the centrally assessed value, you won't get till the mid to end of July. Your locally assessed value, you'll have a pretty good idea through your tax director by the end of June. Up until then, everything's an estimate. So just so you know, and you need both of those. Regarding centrally assessed, whoever in your county is taking those certified amounts from the tax department and spreading them into your tax system, this all makes sense to them because they can envision those big, large Excel spreadsheets. There is a column that says date and service. If it says 2025 this year, you can consider that new growth. And the new growth for a lot of jurisdictions is going to be a very important number going forward because it allows you're going to be able to take cap dollars, additional 3% dollars on that new growth. So we can do great estimates, but you really won't know until the end of July. Well, yeah, you won't have a final value, but as far as estimating for caps, they can't wait till October. End of July is when you'll have a decent value to calculate your cap on. And I just wanted to make sure you understood that. And those folks that do that, spread those centrally assessed properties into your tax systems, you know who to call if you have questions on it. And that's the tax department. And it is the tax director that in your county that has those values, not the county auditor. The county auditor will get it from the tax director as well. But I know I've got a lot of questions on that as well. So hopefully that, and thank you so much, Shelli.
Thank you.
All right, let's give Shelli a round of applause. And for the individual on